Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, Connected Life universe. All of you people out there, I'm really excited about this episode today. It's going to be me and another sultry man voice. He comes wielding a mustache to the table. He's very manly in the background of his screen. I see the head of a deer that he slayed, and really excited about this hunter and heart master. I had a word for it. I can't even. I was going really good with this introduction, Ty. I was like,
oh man.
I was like, what is that word? Brain, you have to be quicker. But I'm here with my buddy Tyler.
How's it going?
It's going good. This manly mustache man. I had the fortunate opportunity to participate in his life for about 3 years. Is that right, Ty?
3.5, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And weekly, we got to sit down every Monday, and I got to hear his same old stupid problems over and over again.
Oh man. Yes.
Tyler came to me years ago, and there was something so endearing about him. He had kind of made a little bit of a mess in his marriage at the time. Was that right, Tyler? Am I reflecting properly? It was.
Yes. Like most men that show up in my office and probably show up in your office, there was an ultimatum involved, and it was time to get some help.
Get your ass in there, or we're done.
That was it. It's like, you need to talk to somebody, or I'm done here. I was like, all right, let's. How bad could it be?
How bad could it be? And what did you imagine when you jumped into my office that it would be 3.5 years? I mean, what was your thoughts? Like, I'll just do a little bit here. I don't know. Do you remember?
Like most things at the time for me, I was like, I'll give it like 6 hard months and have it mastered, and then we'll just kind of be done and go on living my life. We're pretty solid, except for these like 1 or 2 things that are the squeaky wheels.
Wait, as you got under the hood, what did you realize? Was it like not just squeaky wheels anymore? Like,
oh, there's no wheels. There's no wheels. The car's on fire. The car's on fire. We're making noises with our mouths to pretend like the engine's still running, and that's pretty much all that life is right now.
Totally. Talk about rock bottom.
Yeah.
One of the things that Tyler's here with us today because we're going to talk about both his history of the things that he overcame and also where he's at today, and in participating in not only just like getting his life better, but actually seeing other lives transformed. And I have been so honored to be part of Tyler's story. It's one of those things where I didn't meet with anyone else the way that I met with Tyler. There was a commitment that I had inside of my heart to him where there was this love that overtook me, and I was like, I want to see this young man be successful. I want to give everything that I have the capacity to give to him, because I can see that hidden behind the protectors, the surviving mechanisms, is this wonderful young man who was designed for such a better life than what he's experiencing right now. And I could identify with a lot of pieces of his story. And that's what we do, the places that we do get involved in people's stories, is because we can see a piece of ourself in their story. And there's a fight that rises up inside of us going, I want to fight for you the way other people maybe didn't fight for me. And there was just a commitment and a camaraderie inside of that space. And you've become one of my you're written into my story, Tyler, and that'll never be unwritten or erased out of that space.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity. Like, my experience of that was a little more chaotic. It was a little more terrifying of, I can quickly prove my worth to Justin. And then like when he's kind to me, when he loves me, that's going to be, of course he does. Like I performed, like that's, I can take responsibility for that, but it won't actually land. And then we spent enough time together where he was present for my burnout and implosion and destroying relationships, and he was still safe. And then he even became the target of some of those destructive behaviors, and he was still safe. And basically I think of it like if you adopted a stray animal that hasn't counted on anybody ever, and you're like, okay, he bit me. That's what he does right now. Like I'm just going to keep being consistent. I'm going to keep being safe. And eventually, like, I mean, there's things we carry with us our entire lives, and things that we learn to use for the betterment of ourselves and others. But one of those things is that self-abandonment in me, where I feel if anything rocks the boat, we're now like back to square one. And you being safe, you being consistent, you constantly, at this point I can say, inviting me back into connection, but what really looked like scaring the shit out of me over and over and over again. It was like, okay, no. If someone doesn't allow you to clean your mess up, they're an asshole. Like you actually have an opportunity to reconnect if you'll own your part. Yeah. Like that. I mean, we're going on more than half a decade at this point of going up and down and around that same thing. Yeah.
It's one of those things. You use the word adopted, and that's such a great word. This is a side note for men out there. You have the power to make immense impact through your capacity to adopt other men in your life, men and women as well. But I'm talking about if you want to leave an impact on the masculine journey. Most men are just going, I feel so abandoned and I want masculinity to choose me, but I don't know how to let it because I've had to just grow up. I've had to just be this, whatever this is, the man of the household, or I had to grow up on my own because my dad wasn't involved inside of my story. I can't trust that men want to really be involved in my story. And for any man that's just like, hey, I'm going to have a heart of adoption where I'm going to choose another man. I'm going to choose him no matter how messy he gets. I'm going to choose to have the hard conversations. I'm going to choose to not be offended when he reacts and lashes out at me, because I'm going to believe that all of this isn't actually who he is. And what it does is it may take time, but it creates a safety net. I mean, it took me 10 years, a decade. I talk about our friend Paul Young, who wrote The Shack. It took me a decade to truly settle into the love that he had for me, where I was like, oh, it's sincere. Like he's not going to walk away if I get too messy. And he was one of the, he loved so radically that it took me 10 years to let him love me. People who don't love as well, I'm like, I'll let you into my life. This is much easier. But like something about like, no, is it really this good? Are you really going to choose me? Are you truly going to forgive me if I make messes? You are making such a tangible impact in my heart. I don't know what to do with that, especially if you do walk away.
Especially if we grew up in some form of codependence, where it's like you've made it clear you don't need me, so I have no control. Yeah, I have no control. I can either run or I can try to accept it and let it trigger me and let it spiral me and work through that for the 1,000th time and then come back and try again. Like that's what healing looks like for that kind of relationship.
You made a really good mention there. Like what Tyler was saying is, for people who are especially codependent, we feel like inside of our performance that we can earn a space of love, and that feels settling in an unhealthy way. Where
it's subjective. It's dollars and cents.
Yeah, I can buy your love. I can buy your love. Yep. So now I have power inside of this. But when someone doesn't need you, in the sense of like, I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to perform for me. I am totally good without you in my life, but I'm choosing to love you. That just rips the control card out of our hand.
It's terrifying because you're saying it's not for sale.
It's true.
It's like, well, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Ricky Bobby and Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm just terrified as the camera's staring me down.
But I feel like we've all felt that, like, hopefully we've all been confronted with that level of love where it puts us in, it's almost like it puts us in quicksand.
Yeah.
Like it slows us down. It's like, there's nothing I can do here. I'm just going to sit here and be miserable or be loved. That's my two options. And the cool thing about it is when we get past all the survival mechanism, it starts to land. If I'm buying your love and you give it to me, like, it doesn't actually land. It's just, I'm offended if you don't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will self-abandon if you don't. So to actually be loved when your own personality, your own inner critic, your own history tells you don't deserve it. Like that's what really shocks our system.
Yeah.
I think that's what consulting's about. Is like, I've told a couple clients, I don't get paid to be a consultant. I get paid to not need you.
That's good.
I get paid to loan you a very well manicured, well maintained, well managed emotional space.
That's
a place
good.
that you're not big enough to break.
Yeah. That's really good.
I just let you throw yourself against the walls for the first few months while you figure out that I actually mean what I say, and then we'll get to work.
It's true. We need, I found this. I had a counselor one time that when I met with them, they ended up being messy in a way that they needed me. And that broke a lot of trust because I was trying to find a place that didn't need from me, where I could actually go in and just be purely loved. It didn't mean they couldn't be messy. They could have a coke addiction behind the scenes. I could care less if they can show up lovingly towards me and hold space for me. Like that wasn't the issue. The issue was when they went to a place of, I'm going to need to pull from you. And that was really difficult. And, but I've had other counselors who are like, I don't need you to ask me even about my life right now. Be quiet and be there, and quit asking me questions to see if you can show up for me, Justin. I'm just here to show up for you. So this is your space to be as messy as possible, and I am strong and capable of you melting down. Yeah,
totally. I think that's like, as an 8. I know you're a fellow 8.
When he says 8, he's talking about the Enneagram.
On the Enneagram,
8. Yeah. And on the Enneagram, that describes like the idea that we have a challenger personality. We also oftentimes like we have really tender hearts, but we have a fight inside of us.
Also, our confirmation bias is so set towards like safety.
Yes, self-protection.
Yeah, yeah, and so. You know, when somebody's like, how's your day going? And I say, none of your business. They're like, I hate you for saying that, but I feel so loved right now. I don't know why. Uh-huh. It feels healthy, but no one's ever been that honest. Uh-huh. Like, yeah, that's because it's what your heart was looking for. You might not have known it though.
Yes. What he's saying there, even in none of your business, it's like you didn't have to worry about us. We could set that space and be like, hey, it's just about you. So with that said, getting into, I wanted to kind of give a 30,000 foot view of your process, because I think that there's something so incredibly beautiful and unique about your story. Like, you are a fully functional human being that is helping other people walk through their stuff. It doesn't mean you don't have messes. You still trigger at times. You've triggered with me and stuff, just like I trigger with other people and things like that. So it doesn't mean you've become perfect, but you are actually pretty well at articulating your emotions and being able to help other people articulate their emotions. But that wasn't always the case for Tyler. Can you tell us a little bit about your history?
Sure. I mean, we can kind of go back to, let's go to the beginning. We'll just run through until you and I meet.
In the beginning, there was Tyler.
Yeah, there was Tyler, and he was grumpy.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So, grew up in a very close knit family. I'm an older brother. I have a younger sister. She's awesome. Mom and dad, both professionals, both very intentional. Had a very fun early childhood. I remember it being fun. I also remember it being painful in a way where, like, I've had this wound of not being fully understood, and part of that's personality. Part of that is the burden of progress, where it's just generations of, like, back in my day, like, boys don't cry. It's like, yeah, well, you did better than your parents, so you have to deal with me now. Congratulations. And childhood's chugging right along. Whenever I was 12 years old, my father suddenly passed away. It was a complete fluke thing. Went in for a routine surgery, through a clot. He was gone 24, 48 hours later. It's kind of a blur. And then it was like shattered glass. Like, you're now aware of everything, every pain, every fear, aware of mom's emotions, aware of my sister's emotions. Out of our family, he was a surrogate dad to pretty much everybody, to our community. I mean, I think he had almost 2,000 people at his funeral in a town that doesn't have a whole lot of people.
Wow.
And, just I hear stories to this day. It's like, I had foot surgery and you were probably 6 years old and your dad came and mowed my grass for me.
Wow.
And brought you along. And so, like, I got a firsthand, I got to witness, like, this level of, like, ownership and this level of active love for the people around him. And so that became kind of the identity, the standard, what I saw as a good man. Mm. And the hard part was I still had to be a teenager, and I still had to grow up, and I still had to navigate a world where the entire community, everyone that I had grown to love growing up, was shattered also by losing him. Right. So his 5 or 6 closest friends, there's round number 6, probably 3 of them haven't set foot in a church again. A couple of them have just completely disconnected from all community whatsoever. I have one that still feels like a father figure that I trust and that I'm connected to. But, like, I mean, he made, like, losing him was very much, it broke our community.
Yeah, because excuse me, it wasn't just that it hit your heart hard. It shatters other people around you who were also part. So all of a sudden, it's not just like, I lost my dad. It's like my community all fell apart because of it too. So we have all this loss all over the place, which attachments, all of a sudden, all of these core attachments that cause safety are all broken. It's like, I don't even know what to attach to. It's nothing safe. Everything falls away and disappears. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. And so I developed this mentality of, like, no one is coming. Prepare for self-rescue at 12 years old, right? 13 years old. And, the only way to be safe is to get as big as possible, as fast as possible.
Right.
Become the biggest person in your world, become independent, don't need anyone. Like, me and my in-laws joke with me that me and my wife show up at the same place 15 minutes apart in 2 separate cars, because she's like, I might want to stay late. And I'm like, I'm driving myself. I'm not even having that conversation.
It's funny because I have the same behavior.
Yeah, it's like, it's low stakes for us as a couple at this point. But, like, you guys don't like riding together? It's like, I'm like waiting. I don't like being waited on. It's like, no one's a liability if we don't need each other.
Totally. That was so formative in our relationship. I was like, I just need to, Yeah. I'm so self-protective and self-sufficient. You do your thing, I'll do mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be your date when you get there, and I'll see you later. Like that's pretty much, I'll leave when I'm ready.
That's so real. So with that, excuse me, that turned into a young boy that felt very abandoned. And I know that affected like how you showed up to life all of a sudden, didn't it?
It did. Part of the loss and that level of pain is things that mattered to most people just kind of quit mattering to me.
Right.
You know, it's like I'm 15 years old dealing with the realities of what it means to be mortal and what happens when we die and what happens if that happens tomorrow. And people are like, hey, you're not turning your homework in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. I don't think I can make myself care. And so there was in a culture and in a family where performance is very important, it created a lot of friction. And so as well as like pain and loss, we now have defensiveness. I became almost a compulsive liar.
Yeah.
Anything to cover my ass, which like an outwardly projecting strong human being, but a very insecure, damaged, destroyed little boy. And, you know, you want to become an authority in relationship, you should probably have a relationship.
Yeah.
If you want to understand your own journey, you should probably start walking, like walk that path. But what happened, I think, is when Amy gave me the ultimatum to find someone to actually help me work through this stuff, because she could totally see, I mean, she got to see me 24/7, and she realized like, I'm not what I think I am. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that was terrifying for her. So props to her for freaking out and getting me in a direction other than where I was going. But yeah, I just totally lost my train of thought.
No worries. I watched something I was going to make a comment on while you're there with that. When we started kind of revisiting your history, I noticed that the environment around you seemed like it perceived you as a rebellious kid. Am I
Yes.
right in stating that?
Rebellious rebellious at home. Like I'm sure my mom, my sister could easily say like, oh yeah, they both acted in. I very much acted out after we lost dad. To the outside world, I was a performer. It's like I might not be doing my homework at school, but I probably had thousands of hours of community service and volunteer time. Like I got every volunteer award in school. Wow. Because I was like, yeah, what is time? Go pick up trash for 8 hours a day. That's fine. Like, I worked at a kids camp in the summertime, and it's like 16-hour days, 7 days a week, 14 weeks of summer, because I didn't necessarily feel like I needed the friendships and relationships or whatever play. I didn't even know play was a thing till I was spent about 2 years in your office. So the idea of staying home, bonding with the people I go to school with, spending time in that community, I was like, no, I'll just like screw off to some either third world country or some volunteer opportunity. So like there was both. It was very much rebellion when it came to the places where there was accountability to measure up, where there was like gratitude, like, thanks for your time. It's like, oh, I'll just triple down on that. That feels good. That feels nice that validation feels nice. When
you mean because there wasn't like a measuring stick as far in that arena, they're just like glad that you showed up and did all of it, and that was fine. But then when there was clear measurements inside of the house, that seemed like it was reactive.
I love that. I love that you love to serve, but you still have a C in math.
Right.
And I'm like, but I don't want to care about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my dad's dead, and nobody's here to step in for that. So I don't care about a C.
if you've ever watched New Girl, there's an episode where the character Nick loses his dad, and for like the whole episode, he's like, "Dead dad pass."
I remember that episode.
Like I said, I yelled at Amy occasionally.
Dead dad pass.
She's like, "Will you please take the trash out?" I'm like, "Dead dad pass." Like, run away.
But there was something that, like, I would say severely stunted for you in that season. And one of the things that I noticed that you did, like you were talking about, which a lot of people do when they have big pain, big pain that wrecks their life, they all of a sudden find a medicative space. And for you, it seems like, okay, I'm going to medicate by disconnecting into works, services, which is, again, we as human beings, like we throw ourselves into work. And we're just going to go, I'll just work harder right now so that I don't have to go home and be present with my wife, my kids, the messiness with my family. Like, it's a good place to almost check out and get little bite-sized affirmations to kind of like, that trickle in to kind of like, not even feed your soul. It's give your soul like a mini snack. And it's like, okay, I can go one more day. I had a little snack, a little tiny treat of someone being excited about how I showed up and did this in this space for them.
Totally. And I think it's one of the only socially acceptable coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
You know, if it was substance abuse, there would have been interventions, and there would have been
1,000%.
And there would have been help.
Totally.
And there would have been somebody would have rescued me. But it's like, no, he's just working. He's just experiencing burnout as an adolescent. He's just experiencing at
an accelerated rate. Yes.
Yeah. We're in our fourth cycle of burnout by the time you're 21.
Yeah. And everyone's like, he's just such a good kid. He's just so helpful. Instead of being like, yo, I'm going to grab you by the ear, drag you over here and be like, stop it.
Sure. And I mean, growing up in a non-trauma informed version of Christianity too, where like, there's no end to the free work available for you if that's what you want to do.
And the righteous praises.
100%. It's like you're a church all-star. No, you don't need to go to youth group. You should serve elsewhere. It's like, who needs to be a well-rounded individual?
It's true. It's so easy for people to get lost because you're right. It was a socially acceptable thing. All of a sudden, it wasn't drugs and alcohol. No one had to have concern because we're not looking at the elements of like, oh no, something that a child needs is well-rounded relational experiences. He needs to actually be connecting with kids and having fun inside of his heart, playing around. Like, those aren't on the list of things that should be happening for him.
Sure.
To adults,
absolutely.
You know, when I noticed that when I met you, that if I asked you what was going on inside, what would you say would be the primary things that you could articulate, if any?
I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like, exhaustion was exhaustion in I'm incapable of continuing, not in like today was rough, I should probably prioritize rest tomorrow or structure my life in a different way. It was just, I can't function. I'm done. That was probably as self-aware as that's probably giving me a little bit of credit too. It was probably just, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm good, man. It's good to see you. How's it going?
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely learned a wonderful coping mechanism. When we can't get our needs met, when we can't get care, when we can't get help for our grief that's necessary, we form survival techniques. And, you know, one of those that's very common for people is dissociation and denial. Those are two very common expressions of survival. Like, dissociation says I am so far as the east is from the west from anything going on inside of me, the general stuff. And denial says none of that stuff exists whatsoever. You know, it's like, no, I don't have a problem. I'm good. I'm just really tired. I'm just super exhausted. And kind of just disqualifies probably a lot under the surface.
Sure. You can only heal what you're willing to acknowledge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Denial's easy, but nothing will change. I say easy. The bill comes due always. Like, nothing's without cost, but it is convenient.
Yeah. When you came into that space with me and you started to reflect about your history, what did that provoke for you, if you remember at all?
I think I started to see that the story I had told over and over and over again to impress or to prove something, to see someone respond, not in shock, but with deep concern. Instead of like, wow, dude, I'm so proud of you for making it through all that. That's a crazy story. To have someone go, are you okay? Like, that's not like, sound like you almost shouldn't be alive right now. You sure you're good? I'm like, yeah. What are you talking about? Why wouldn't I be good? And then having my story reflected back to me, which, I mean, it's a process that just having my story reflected back probably took 6 months of our time together. Of like, well, I heard you say this, and this is how you should be responding, and this is how people typically respond. Like, having that reflected back to me. Getting some empathy for little Tyler. Not letting my own alter ego of I'll prove to you that I'm lovable, seeing it not work, but seeing how someone would respond to a little boy that experienced that. It broke me. It freaked me out. I think when that started happening, we were meeting, I think, every other week. And then I canceled like 3 meetings in a row. We didn't meet for almost 2 months. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I guess like I remember hanging up that call and almost feeling like, well, that was fun. Hope he has a good life. And then after a couple of weeks, you reach out and like, we need to meet every week. Just until we don't. It won't be forever, but until further notice. That was probably the biggest challenge for me.
Was being consistent in relationships suddenly and having to face stuff, or
that, I mean, that
the empathy.
I didn't even know the game enough to know that was going to suck. Yeah. I just thought, well, no, I don't like, you've heard my story. What else do you want from me?
Yeah.
And not realizing that I had reached the end of like the edges of my mask. Like, this is all I got. All I have is like the newspaper clippings of my jacked up childhood. Once I get to the end of that, you're going to tell me what's wrong with me. And, you know, hopefully a few easy steps, you know, whatever the emotional health version is of, you know, say 10 Hail Marys and be on your way. And, you know, I was going to go right back into codependency, dysfunction. I'll probably see you in a few years when I burn out again. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I'm pretty sure I went through every trauma response I had, which was, you know, do everything you wanted, or push back against you, or completely run away, or just sit here and stare at you, and then stare at you for an hour and then pay you, feeling like an idiot. It's like, I'm so glad I'm paying for these minutes that we're not saying anything.
Yeah,
it was great. It was all necessary though.
Yeah. It was what you pointed out. It's great what you pointed out. I probably went through all my trauma responses, like my self-protector modes, like each one you'd hit, is this going to work and get me out of this situation or save me from it or whatever, one after another. And one of the things that's really required when we're watching someone in their healing process is being aware of like, hey, this person's going to act out in these different ways. And none of this is personal. All of them are going to be like, will this push this person away? Will this push them away? Will this protect me from them, their love getting in any closer? And then you kind of burn out all of them. Like you said, you went through the amalgamation of them and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do now. And then love is still even present, pushing in, being like, okay, where are we let's get behind that now.
I think of that as the first tipping point. Like being a consultant now and seeing it play out over and over and over with clients where, hey, I'm so sorry I twisted off at you and screamed at you. They'll say to me, and I'm like, listen, you're chugging right along. This is exactly like, it's perfect. You're doing great. You're right on schedule. You're right where you're supposed to be. It's going to be perfect. Like, don't sweat it. And 6 months later, like, you remember whenever I used to just like trauma respond at you and scream at you? I'm like, oh yeah, it was like, all I could see was this like little 4-year-old stomping around, doing what got them abandoned as a kid, doing the illegal behavior as a control mechanism. And it's just like, you are so lovable in this moment. You're the most lovable in this moment. That's what I felt from you when we finally got there.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, he's not scared of me. He's not scared of the scary version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, maybe he's not full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he means it.
Mm-hmm.
And that started shining a light into this place that I had completely walled off.
It's I think that's, one of the aspects of love is it's a long suffering thing. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be present for this. I'm going to play the long game here inside of this.
Yeah.
And the aspect of patience, like, all right, you go ahead and be as messy as you need to be. I'm patiently here. This isn't a reflection of me. If my identity was in in what I do and making sure that you have a certain breakthrough in a certain time, it would have, devastated me. Like, oh, I'm failing this person. They're having these meltdowns and they should be getting better. Like, none of that was inside of me and my process. I'm just like, I'm here. Love's going to break through into this guy's heart. It's going to take some time, but I'm cool. I don't have to expedite it. I can meet with him weekly. And it's, I remember times when, I had some moments with some people that were within your space. I'm not going to name names, but they kind of lashed out at me and they're like, why isn't he getting better faster? And he's still doing all these behaviors and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, we're not moving at your pace for him. We're moving at his pace and love's pace for his process. And I will take as long as I need. And I don't care if you think that I'm failing because he's not moving faster along in his process. I'm not going to take that personal. And so there was no pressure. It was just love will continue to just stay present. And eventually it breaks through, like I said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that might've been also one of the biggest like trust building moments for me was hearing you advocate for, like, not just tell me that I'm in a space where it's safe to take the time that I need. It's like, you're not going too slow. You're going as fast as your biology, your emotions, your psychology will let you go. Like, you're going fast enough.
Yeah.
And I will actually defend that point with the people who might accuse you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he's on my team.
Yeah.
He actually believes me.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't look at you. There was maybe identities written over you that said lazy, incompetent, doesn't care, stuff like that. And I was like, that is not who he is. That is not the reason that he cannot show up and do X, Y, and Z inside of his life. None of that. This is not a lazy guy. This is not an incompetent guy. He's brilliant. This is a guy that's in deep trauma, not just from the loss of a dad, but there's deep trauma from a lot of other experiences on the other side of that death that were really, really difficult. This is a guy who is in fight or flight constantly. This is a guy that has hypervigilance. This is a guy that his soul is burnt out from so much hypervigilance of survival, who's like chain smoking a pack of cigarettes a day to calm himself from the anxiety that's overwhelming him. Am I right on all that?
100%. The pack of cigarettes and a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
Every day.
The upper and the downer, back and forth.
Yep. Yep.
But the thing was, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, getting to experience what that belief looked like in the real world. You know, you said, like, love being patient and kind. It also believes all things.
Yeah.
And part of that is like believing in someone's higher identity, even though right now they're acting out of a trauma response.
Yeah.
It's like, you're that lovable little kid. That's literally that rolls through my head over and over and over and over and over with every client that I work with, whether they're, 21 and upset with the same ex-boyfriend or girlfriend and the same pattern for the 50th time now. And you're just like, you're the most lovable little 5-year-old, innocent, undamaged being. And then you learned, like, you're cursed with knowledge. You're not like cursed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I get to believe in like that higher identity of you and then just act accordingly.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means I'm nicer to you than you feel like you deserve. And sometimes I hold you way more accountable than you think you should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe, like, no, you're someone who could be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna feel like a beating, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I love you.
And that's, obviously that's something that I was heavy-handed on inside of our, it's everybody consults differently in our world of life consulting that we've trained up and things like that. But one of the things that I've found that has radically transformed so many people is holding the duality of those two things in tension, of knowing when to just consistently hold the truth of someone's identity and the patience and the gentleness, and then knowing when to lovingly smash someone over the side of the face and be like, actually, I'm going to call you out on this. And because I'm seeing, like you said, I'm seeing who you actually are apart from this mess. I'm not, when I am having a challenging conversation, it's not challenging this version of yourself that's messy over here. It's going, I'm going to talk to the person who's fully healthy, who doesn't know that they're fully healthy, but I'm going to talk to that being, and I'm going to treat you like you're that being in some of the dialogues that I have and the challenges that I have inside of your world. But what it does is it opens up the framework for like, oh, you mean I have the capacity to be that? You mean that's who I really am? And they start to begin to merge into that and find themselves restored to it.
It's one of the coolest processes to be a part of, or to witness, or to even facilitate. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever gotten to see.
Mm-hmm.
Much less experience, much less be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting. There's the awareness of what's sitting right in front of us, right? Like when someone's in their biggest of messes, it's not like we're not aware of the mess. It's that we're more keen to the truth of who they are. Like, oh yeah, I'm aware that's there. I'm not ignoring that. I don't have cognitive dissonance about the way that you're shitting the bed all the time, all over the place. But I'm more cognitive of the truth of your being. And when you become cognitive of the truth of your being, the value of who you are, the truth of how you were designed, you will absolutely manifest that reality.
Absolutely. When you believe the higher truth about you,
right,
you'll hold yourself accountable.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
We're literally here working ourselves out of a job.
Yep.
I don't want to be your consultant forever.
Exactly.
I want you to not need me.
Yep.
But I'm going to treat you as someone who will in the future not need me. It's very easy to have the job security of, I've seen little pockets and little windows where you could go, oh, we could stay right here for the next like 20 years. And like, they would feel super loved and think they were going. So, and like, it's a challenge to step past that and go, I want my heart for this person is that they outgrow me.
Yep.
They outgrow me faster than it took me to outgrow some of the dynamics in mine and your relationship.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's not that we don't have a relationship. It just doesn't look the same.
Yeah. That's
part of growing up.
Yeah. When there's ego involved in this type of modality of healing, any of the healing helper modalities and stuff like that, if there's ego involved, you don't want someone to outgrow you. You want to be needed inside of it. And one of the things that I said with, I think, the majority of my clients, I up front would tell them, my goal is that you don't need me in your life. And I want to be able to, and now that may take a year or two, or it may take 6 months, or it may take just a couple of meetings that I help facilitate just enough truth that you go, oh, this way of thinking, believing, and responding, I can go work on that, and it's going to change the dynamics of my life. And I'm like, great. You're looking at me telling you don't need me. I've done my job.
Totally.
Not, oh my God, I'm not enough anymore.
Yeah. Like I think I'm living a life I want to live.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking ownership. Like I might need a blind spot check in 6 months, but I'm living a life I want to live, and I'm seeing what's actually happening. I'm self-aware.
Yeah.
It's like, sweet. I'm here if you need me. Go have fun.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You and I did spent the time in the office, and there was a lot of, like we said, loving, tender times. There was boxing matches where, especially there are personality types at times. And there's also something about masculinity where I would put on boxing gloves, for the sake of an older male figure being willing to be like, oh no, I'm going to give you what you need. I'm not going to let you run over me. I'm also not dominating you in the boxing gloves. The boxing gloves looks like I'm going to be lovingly aggressive and be like, Tyler, come on, let's look at this honestly. Quit running from this. You're scared of this. There's a fear here. You're not going to look me in the face and tell me you're not scared. You are. Here are all the signs of it. Don't bullshit me inside of this space. But what did that do for you?
Learning the difference between fighting and learning how to fight. Mm-hmm. It's like, this isn't a street fight. This is sparring. We don't attack each other's character. Like, I'm actually poking at you and jabbing at you and showing you what is so obvious on the surface that you think you have hidden. Mm-hmm. That you think you got me beat, you think no one can see. It's like, let's just poke that and see if it hurts. It's like, God, it hurts. Why'd you do that? Mm-hmm. It's like, why'd you think no one could see it? Like, that's part of, like, it might feel like a fight. You're still safe. Mm-hmm. You're still safe. In the moment, it feels like fighting with somebody who has 10 years experience on you. You're getting your ass beat. Mm-hmm. But somehow there's part of it where you know it's for your benefit.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to be like you if I just don't quit doing this.
There are loving truth tellers that pass through our life, and oftentimes we can resist them. And we can decide that in our relationship with our own shame and our own guilt and our own condemnation, that we are going to continually resist that. We can vilify those people, or we can begin to say like, hey, they're not actually attacking my character. There are loving truth tellers who actually want the betterment of my life, and they're willing to fall on the grenade of my big, ugly emotions for the benefit of me. And it's going to cost them the moments of my tirades and my protective responses. And so when people are listening to this, one of my hopes is that you'd hear this and you go, oh, are there people in life who have been tried to be loving truth tellers that I've drove out of it? And are there people that are in it currently that I put walls up towards rather than being like, tell me more. Yeah. Like that felt uncomfortable to hear.
Tell me more, and also tell me your heart behind that. If the answer to that is my heart is for you, like I want good for you, it's like, okay, this is just my bullshit. I need to hear this until it's no longer hurtful.
And that is to me the foundation for humility. There's a resistance to pride that happens in our atmosphere around us. And that resistance pride is really like, I got this. I don't need you. I have to deflect everything. I don't want to hear what you have to say, because we're self-protecting because we don't think that we have worth. And what it does is the world ends up, our life experience, it turns into like this resistance because we're never able to move forward and to move to the location that we need to, because we keep our feet trapped in molasses. That I don't need you. I don't need to hear this. I don't want feedback. I don't want my ego hurt in this process. The resistance is literally that itself and creates the molasses, like I said. But humility really says, I don't have it all together. I know that this hits ego spots and it hurts, but I can hear that their heart is to love me. I'm going to like work and resist the thing inside of me that wants to self-protect. I'm going to get honest about what's going on inside of me. I'm going to choose vulnerability, and all of a sudden the floodgates of forward movement start happening to lead us back to our original intent, our true identity. It's a really big deal. It's risky, and you took a lot of risk inside of that, which led to you ultimately getting to a place where it was like, I feel confident about managing myself and my life. And that actually stirred a new season for you, where you ended up landing in the space with Abby. Tell me a little bit about that.
Totally. I started catching myself responding and reacting in ways that I was very, very proud of. That was kind of the first thing of things that would be level 10 triggers, cost me weeks of my life. I'm now like, oh, that really sounds like theirs. I'm gonna go ask, hey, is this actually about me? Are you having a bad day? And hearing like, no, it's actually not about you. Sorry, I treated you that way. I'm like, could have done this. These aha moments of I could have done this the whole time, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, over time, becoming a safe place just organically for people, where I found myself being invited into people's process. Without any credentials, without any training, other than just some like the life on life journey with you, and thinking, oh my God, I come alive in this space. I come alive hearing and normalizing a loving response to pain, like loving on people even when it's messy, letting them know like, hey, I see you. I see that you're really angry. I see that you want to push back and push away. Do you want space, or do you want me to sit here with you in it? Like, you're safe here, dude. And a lot of times with men, a lot of times with people in my world that I did not have prior relationship with or deep relationship with, where you find yourself, instead of saying like, oh yeah, man, that sucks, you're now going, that doesn't quite sound like your wife. It kind of sounds like you. You want to talk about that? Like, there's an opportunity where you can own this, and no matter what she does, you can have a really like kick-ass time. But it means challenge.
Yeah.
It means you and I have a few hard conversations. Like, you bring a 6-pack of beer, I'll sit with you till it's gone on the back porch, and we'll figure out what's going on with you. And just having those organic opportunities that inspired me. I had a hard time shifting my perspective on what my future could look like. It's like, you're going to work, you're going to build something, you're going to make enough money that you can afford children. You're going to do that. If you don't die young, you'll get to see them grow up, and like, you'll be tired the whole time. That's as expected. Then you die. It's a good life. What if I did something that I am just kind of naturally obsessed with, and naturally I come alive in front of? And that brought me to asking you, which to you probably felt pretty casual out of all the other things I'd ask you over a 4-year period. But in the moment, it was terrifying. Like, I want to do what you do. How do I do that? Like, it was literally that simple. Like, how do I get into to what you do, because this is what I think I love.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, well, you had some really good questions. Like, where do you feel like you actually have authority?
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing this just to like feed your own ego?
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually want this? And then the next thing he told me was, so Abby is putting together a masterclass in consulting. And I don't think it was called masterclass at the time.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
It was literally just like, it was the consortium of 5 dudes hanging around with Abby and learning, like getting challenged every single week on, like, I thought you gave it to me hard. It was completely like, because I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm like, I've strung together like 2 good seasons of emotional health. It's time to start like doing this professionally. I think I'm that confident. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to challenge you. We're going to step away from our space for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to really dive in with Abby in the masterclass that she's doing. And instantly, like, all my mother wounds came to the surface, and it was like starting over at square one. I'm like, oh no, oh no. But learning the mentality and the heart and the source material, like the homework was crazy, and learning about how to process a trigger, and then not just learning how to process a trigger, like the steps or creating your own steps or what it looks like for you. You're going to keep a trigger log for 365 days. And you're going to write down every single thing that rocks you out of being present. And after a couple of weeks, it was like, okay, just like the top 20, just like the top 20 things in a day, because I could spend all day writing. Like, trigger homework triggered me constantly.
Yes, it does.
But that in that season, I got to really learn what I had authority in, what I brought to the table, what I could receive. It just the parts of me that were dreams started getting fleshed out and becoming life and becoming something I felt connected to and didn't just fantasize about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up the vast majority of my life at this point without a biological father. I did not know that in the pursuit of healing my heart to receive fathers, I became one.
Mm-hmm.
To where, like, whenever Amy, my wife, checks in on me at the end of the day or throughout the day, she just goes, "How are the kids?"
Mm-hmm.
Which are my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the kids are great. Love the kids. And like, just the mentality of like what it means to be a safe man, you're naturally going to like embrace fatherhood.
Yeah.
Some form of it, whether that is like spiritually or emotionally, or it is just being a safe, stable, immovable object for people to try to break themselves against, because that's the season they need. And I don't know that it would not be possible without that season with Abby, without actually intentionally going after consulting. Like, you've experienced it. Now here is why. Here's why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Here's when we validate, or when we connect, or when we reflectively listen. Here's 3 or 4 books on the psychology behind that. So, you know, it's not just like woo-woo nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of it felt like woo-woo nonsense. And then you deep dive on that for a year and you realize like, oh, this is actually like neurobiology that we're shifting through unconditional love. And like, it feeds into the part of me that obsesses about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're getting to be activated. We're getting to do practice consulting calls with other students and getting very honest feedback about our consulting style, where it's like, yeah, you get a good thing, but then you better be brutally honest, because we're actually, this is to your benefit. This person you're validating, leading through a memory, processing pain with, they're big enough that there's no mess you can make that they can't like go clean up. They just might not talk to you for a couple of weeks. You're going to be fine. But learning what my strengths are and getting exposed to people who had different strengths, it's like, okay, there is no one way. I think without something like a masterclass, where you have the community, you have the knowledge, you have the experience, you have the covering, you have, I think with this round, last year's masterclass, the people who are in first year right now, I'm thinking there's like 80 years of experience between like staff and like the master consultants and you guys and the interns, and it's exponentially growing as this goes along, like the experience, the safety, the depth. I have a lot of clients in this year's masterclass, and seeing the elevation in self-awareness and the elevation in like, oh, you definitely got this. Like they're like, here's what I like. Someone who has a fawn response, who wants to do everything to please you, seeing them be like 4 months into a masterclass and being like, here's what I'm going through and here's what I think I need from you today. And you're just like, let's go.
Totally change their approach. Yeah.
Totally change the way that they own their own journey, because they got to, like, it's a deep dive in self-awareness. It's the deepest dive that I've experienced so far.
Wow.
It is, and do I think that a lot of people are built for this stuff? Yeah, I think so. I think there's a consultant inside of most people. There's a healer inside of most people. But even if that's not what you professionally want to do, I still think the deep dive it's there for the taking either way. Like if you never want to charge a dime for any of your time in this space in the future, I still think it's worth it. I think it was like it was a necessary season in my journey, whether or not I did this, whether I went through it and decided this isn't for me or whatever. It's like, do it.
Well, what I've noticed is a couple things. You coming out of my office and then taking your step inside of that, like there was even an exponential increase in your confidence and your articulation style. Like there was a lot of great things of awareness that was happening for you and us equipping you with language. And then all of a sudden your ability to articulate, not just articulate what was going on inside of you, but then articulate, you could see like, oh, this is what's happening inside of this other person's world. Like you said, the light bulb for self-awareness got so intense and so bright that it was shining a light on everyone else's world. And there was enough language, deliberate language being like kind of coded inside of that space with the masterclass that you could say like, oh, this is what's happening inside of their world. And this is probably the ways that they're reacting. Like the roadmap to the human heart really got revealed in so many ways, exponentially, being in that space. And like you said, like even if you didn't go on to do the work that you did, you walk away with something that's going to be as a leader in whatever space. If you went back to the lawn care business that you had and everything else that was inside of that, and you just worked with employees, you're actually going to lead in any of those arenas from an entirely different understanding of humanity, how to help humanity not only be better even in the workplace and what they're doing around you, but actually better their lives, where you're leaving lasting impacts with every individual that you cross paths with, because you have a reconnection not only to your own identity, but a connection to love and knowing how to communicate that for each person. Really big deal in it. But what the cool thing is that happened for you, and I would say probably the best thing that I watched as a kid that felt so traumatized from his childhood between his time here with me and his time over with Abby, really has walked away from so much of his hypervigilance. And he's so present. Like, I always feel you super clearly present in your experience, in your relational exchanges that are happening. And with that, you've created so much safety for the world around you, because Tyler is now present with himself, and Tyler is not scared of the pain inside of him, and therefore he's not scared of the pain within other people around him. And the cherry on top really is that when you came alive to your own process, you decided, like, this is actually something that I want to professionally help facilitate, and it's made an incredible career for you. And were you going to say something?
I was going to say, just being able to help connect to the enjoyment of the process.
Yeah.
Like, instead of thinking like this is a financially feasible thing to do, and this is like how I'd made every other decision, just
right.
The numbers doesn't, like, my heart does not matter. It's like, no, I've never enjoyed anything more than this.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had, like, even in the most, I don't even want to say difficult, painful moments with clients, it's like, this is a dream.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so at home here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this is what I feel created to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can know that in the core of who you are without going on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's theory until you walk it out and get to, like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
If I enjoyed something else, I would do something else. And there's a higher calling in whatever that other thing would be too.
Yeah.
For me, it just so happens to be this.
Yeah. There are some of you that are listening to this, and you have gone on your own personal health journey that has been radical and healing, liberating, whatever it is. And you may be listening to this and being like, oh, I want that next step. I want something that's such an incredible deep dive. And I can see myself, like, there's a part of you that says, hey, I want to do that. I want to see people's lives get transformed, and I want to get paid doing it. And then maybe you're just like, I don't know whether or not I want to do that, but I know that I want to go to the deepest depths that I possibly can in this season of life. We've been talking about it for a while now, but our year-long life consulting masterclass is happening. There is room for applicants still. The time is growing short for applications, but if you're interested and you're hearing Tyler's story and you're going, I want that, and I want to explore that further, you can email us at lfa@stumvalconsulting.com, and we can give you information on that. But inside of this story, and a part of why we're sharing this story is there's some of you that may look at your life and go, you know what? I just think I'm too broken to change. I'm too stuck. I'm too shut down. I don't know, like, I don't necessarily have hope for being different. Like, when Tyler came into my office, you hear the story of where he was at with me and the story of where he is now. He went from someone who couldn't articulate really any emotions going on inside of him except for I feel exhausted, to being this person that's helping to facilitate other people's journey of connecting to themselves and deeply being able to articulate what's going on and find resolution for the pain inside of their story. So here's a guy that doesn't just get tools out of an experience, but a guy who got truly a deep understanding of himself and the wiring of his humanity, and it actually crossed over into the wiring of how understanding the wiring of other people's humanity. And now you have somebody who is totally imperfect, but he's alive and he's thriving. He's thriving in what he's creating and building. And if you took nothing else away from this, then like there is hope for you to come out of these places and to begin to thrive inside of your life and to find the things that you feel passionate about and to make money doing them. But it's going to take what Tyler did, which it's going to take vulnerability. It's going to take surrender. It's going to take honesty, being honest with yourself and honest with the environment around you. It's going to take surrendering to relationships. Like, it was step by step where there was a loving hand extension of myself to Tyler, and he's like, I don't know if that's going to slap me, and I'm going to slowly risk reaching out and receiving the care and the help that it has. And inside of it, though, his choice to be brave, his choice to face fear, his choice to risk inside of this space is what actually gave him his life back. And so some of you might have listened to the pieces of his story that he's been able to share today, and you're like, oh, I want to have a life that's not just burden. Like, the image that I get is like being restored to places in your life where you had joy. To, like, for Tyler got restored back to the 12-year-old boy before dad passed away. The one that was like, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying people. I'm feeling connected. I'm feeling relational community around me and stuff like that. He got to return to that, but not just return to that point, but also go beyond that point. It's like, oh, I'm going to go back to the 12-year-old before everything happened the way that it did. I'm going to find healing for that 12-year-old. And then I'm going to move forward with that 12-year-old into the new life path that I have, him and I together inside of our journey. And that's available to you. You don't have to live the life that you've been living with the heavy burdens and the unresolved pain inside of your life. Even the worst case scenarios can get resolved.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It is a matter of time.
Yep.
It is 100% possible. Like, time is the variable. Like, with enough exposure to unconditional love, with enough exposure to someone who has the benefit of hindsight, who you might be 6 months into a 5-year journey working with someone, or starting out a 5-year journey working with someone, and they go, I'm not scared of 5 years. Like, I know what it looks like on the other side of it. Like, you're so worth my time right now, as difficult as you're being. Like, as scared as you are, you're already worth it. Just don't quit. If you feel like quitting, say something, because you probably have a need that needs to get met.
Yep. Come on. Tyler, thank you for joining us here today. I love you so much. I'm so thankful that you're part of our community still. It's not just you were in my office, but you got to be part of my community. And we continue to just really value who you are inside of this community and who you are to people outside of you. I've seen so many people get radical breakthrough from being inside of your office. Like, I hear the stories that get passed along to me, and I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. And I have people reach out and be like, oh my God, I meet with Tyler. He's so incredible. Like, story after story where feedback comes in. And that's because you said yes to love, yes to your story. If people are wondering like how they could get a hold of you if they were interested in meeting with you, is there a way for them to do that?
Absolutely. If you want information on doing consulting sessions or just a clarity call, tyler.leifeste@gmail.com, subject line consulting. Yeah, I will. Yeah. tyler.leifeste@gmail.com, and just put the subject line consulting info or Tyler_Leifeste on Instagram. It's two places I really respond to messages. And clarity call is a big deal, because I promise, like, I'm not for everyone. I'm not like the one-stop shop for emotional health, but I could probably get you pointed in the right direction. Part of being in the Stumballs community is I get to be exposed to, at this point, dozens of consultants that have different skill sets and different backgrounds and different areas of authority. So it's like, if all it ends up being is a referral, I'm cool with that too. I don't have a monopoly on healing, but I would really, really love to work with the people that I feel like would be a good fit.
That's awesome. Well, hey man, again, thanks for joining me today. I had fun. I love our man time together. We need to do another hunting trip here soon. So
we definitely do.
Yeah, we do. Anyways, all right, everybody, have a good day. Peace out.